Good evening, everybody, and welcome here to the 12th race of the third season of the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series. It's the third to last race on the season. We're here at the ever-popular Knoxville Speedway as these drivers get their qualifying heats going, preparing for our 35-lap main event later on here tonight. Seth Cole alongside of Anthony McCurry as Zane Burke, Jason Freeman, Nick Cooper making his first start in the season, Loic Bernier, who we saw last week, and Bobby Trapper, who looks like he may be able to use tonight to lock up the championship, make up this first heat. Now, Anthony, obviously, time is running out for drivers like John Cannizzaro and James Boniface. They still come in tonight, have a mathematical shot, but they need bigger numbers in the field, and they need Bobby Trapper to hit a bump in the road with 3 races left to go, and Trapper just doesn't seem like he's got any thoughts about letting up the vice grip he's got in that points lead.
No, not at all. He's got a pretty big one coming into this race as well. 31 points separates himself from John Cannizzaro, and then another 40 points. Well, it's another 11 points back, or make that 9 points back to James Boniface. He comes in 40 points behind as we get going on our first heat. But Trapper, all he has to do tonight is have a good run. But Jason Freeman at the front, and everyone stacks up behind them, and Trapper was involved in that. That is not what Trapper needs if he wants to get the max amount of bonus points in this heat. Trapper, all he has to do is have a good run here tonight. He could walk out of here with an even bigger points lead.
Welcome to the Big Block Series, Nick Cooper, as he was the one I thought was going to go up to the outside guardrail. He was pointed 45 degrees the wrong direction going into turn 1, but what a recovery around Loic Bernier up to the second position, and right now, looking like he may have some thoughts about picking up this heat victory. He's got about 6-7 car lengths between himself and the race leader, Jason Freeman.
And Jason Freeman got away from all of that. He's gotten himself out to about a 2-second lead over Cooper. Cooper now showing he's got some speed. He's pulling away from Bernier, which is surprising given that we saw how fast that the 74 car was the last week. He didn't take part in any of the main event races, so interesting to see if he will do so, but he's got a fast car again tonight. Trapper gets up into the 4th place, and Zane Burke shuffles to 5th place as we're already about halfway through this event. But Heat 2 or Heat 1 will set up pretty much everything that Trapper needs in order to figure out what he's going to do for our main event race. Is that, he's got to go in and he's got to maximize the amount of points he can get today. So far, a bad run, but we've got some fast cars ahead. It's going to be a little bit difficult, and these aren't even drivers that he's battling for the championship with.
And it's interesting, too, because we've kind of been talking about this down the home stretch of this season because it was a big talking point down the home stretch of last year where Bobby Trapper, he would rack up the bonus points in the heats. Last week, picked up a heat victory at USA International, which continued to help him extend his points lead heading into this week. But right now, running in the 4th position would only get him 2 points from this heat. He's going to put a charge there on Loic Bernier, not going to be able to get to the left rear quarter panel at that point in time. And the point you made as well, Loic Bernier, we didn't see him in the main event last week at USA International, even though he was very fast in his heat race, picked up the heat victory there, was the fastest in qualifying, was the fastest in practice. Though he was not the fastest in practice here tonight at Knoxville. I believe he was 4th on the board when practice came to a close, but then showed he does have the speed as he was actually the fastest in qualifying. So a little surprising that a couple of guys like Bernier, who was fast in qualifying, and Bobby Trapper, who's a former winner at this racetrack, are currently running in the mid portion of this heat field.
And that guy running in 1st place, Jason Freeman, has had an interesting season so far. Hasn't been the fastest, but has always been a contender. He's now getting his lead chipped away ever so slightly lap after lap, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. This is a really short track, a half-mile circuit at this raceway, and he's coming around to take the white flag this time around. This is great news for Jason Freeman. He needs something that he can get a bit of momentum, and I think this might be the thing that propels him. It's a bit too late in the season to do it, but I think that he might be a favorite to win tonight. He got out to the lead, and he's only now just being caught up, so if we have a couple of quick yellows, Jason Freeman might be a favorite. He comes around, takes the checkered flag in Heat 1.
We had ourselves a doozy of a battle late there for 2nd place. Loic Bernier got to the outside of Nick Cooper, couldn't nab the spot. Cooper will get the runner-up position. Bernier, Trapper, and Burke behind Jason Freeman as we prepare for our 2nd heat. Now, interesting you talk about Jason Freeman looking for some momentum. Last week, a decent run at USA International. Bypassed him on Grant Wesley for 4th in the overall standings. Wesley back in the field here tonight as he's the pole sitter for this 2nd heat. But Freeman, with those bonus points, and if he can maybe pick up a good performance here tonight, could solidify himself that 4th position in the overall standings. And you talk about him needing momentum as well. Let's not forget, last 2 weeks, we have had a first-time winner here in the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series. Wesley, 2 weeks ago at Kokomo, and last week, John Cannonzaro finally breaking into the winner's circle at USA International. So who's to say the stars may not align for Jason Freeman to maybe get his first win on the season here tonight at Knoxville?
It is a trend that we've saw the last 2 weeks, so it could carry into this one as well. Wesley is on the pole for Heat 2. Brian Rubel will start to his outside. Cannonzaro, second in the standings, moves up into second place after his good showing last week. And at USA, he will now try to hunt down our points leader, Bobby Trapper. Same goes to James Boniface. Boniface lost a position in the points after a pretty dismal race last week, so he will have to get going if he wants to find his way back into second place. He's battling right with Cannonzaro. Only 9 points separate those two. And then Bobby Puckett will be lining out the field in Heat 2. 5 drivers will take Heat 2, and this will set up pretty well for someone like Cannonzaro and Boniface, who wants to have the maximum amount of bonus points and have good starting position for the main race.
I'll tell you what, Brian Rubel's making it very difficult for me to remain impartial in this race. As a guy that frequents Fonda Speedway, I'm very familiar with those colors, the Stuart Friesen 44 that he's piloting here tonight, a hometown guy for me. Green flag in the air as it's going to be Grant Wesley edging ahead through 1 and 2, leaving him double wide. Well, how about 3 wide for second and now for the race lead?
Rubel up the middle, tries to go alongside. He will get to the inside. He will take the lead, but not for too long. Here comes Cannonzaro trying to make a move. Boniface as well, 3 wide for second. Rubel gets ahead. Look at the dive by Wesley from the outside of the racetrack down to the inside. There's contact made, and almost flipping over was Rubel, and Rubel still with contact as he's going backwards, makes contact with Puckett, and now will shuffle all the way to last.
There we go.
And around goes Puckett.
And facing the guardrail. We'll see if we can get that thing refired. No, the caution is going to have to come out here in this second heat. Wesley by about maybe a car length, maybe half a car length over Cannonzaro when that caution flag flew. Let's go back and see what happened with everything that you were describing there, Anthony. Seemed like it took about maybe a straightaway for that wreck to actually come about, but they were kind of wrecking a little bit before that.
Oh yeah, that crash started happening in turn 2. Actually started happening in the entry of turn 2, and they never got off of each other, did Puckett and Rubel. They just started pinging off each other. In fact, Rubel got pinged off of James Boniface first, and then that sent a chain reaction all the way down the back straightaway, and I'm surprised it took them that long to crash, honestly, but Puckett was, unfortunately, he was going last place through all of it, and he still ends up the one with the most amount of damage. That's unfortunate for him, but field was frozen, so he's not going to lose a position, but wow, that was an intense cut. It's almost like bumper cars out there.
Interesting, Brian Rubel is back up to the front of the field after that contact with Bobby Puckett, so I'm not certain how this worked out. Nonetheless, though, Rubel and Wesley look like they're going to be the top two when we go back green. Boniface, Cannonzaro, and Bobby Puckett. And yeah, back to the case there of Brian Rubel. He spent just about the entire back straightaway trying to save that race car because we saw the initial contact into that left rear tire area, and he was all out of shape, and he was just trying to get that thing pointed in the right direction before they got down to turn 3. Pretty impressive that we didn't have a more violent hit with any of these race cars. Bobby Puckett got in the brakes before any front end damage into the outside wall, although it does appear that he did make a quick trip to pit lane and took on a faster pair here for what's going to be the final 8 laps of this race. Again, for those that don't know the rules in the Master Millwright Big Block Series, caution flags do not count. The caution laps do not count. We only count the green flag laps, so only 2 laps to run under green there, the last remaining 8 to be run under green to complete out this second and final heat of the evening.
And we're setting up again. Green flag back in the air. Rubel electing the outside line. Gets a great restart around the middle to outside lane behind them. Battle for second. Wesley was getting charged by Cannonzaro, but Cannonzaro couldn't do anything about it. Here comes the 2. Second and third in the championship. Boniface and Cannonzaro battling it out. Now battle for the lead. Wesley to the inside of Rubel. Whoa, contact
Wesley, ooh, yeah, there was. Right front of Wesley into the left rear of Brian Rubel, and that checked up Wesley. Look at Cannonzaro with a big run, trying to ride that momentum from his first win last week at USA.
Going around the outside, 4 drivers all over each other, make that 5 drivers with Puckett in the mix. This is definitely more compressed than our Heat 1 was, and now there's the contact again. Rupel gets popped up on the left front, but gets shuffled to the back of the pack. Here comes Wesley to the lead. Cannizzaro and Boniface still battle. Boniface trying to get a run through the middle. Looks like the low line just can't get any momentum out of the turns. Here comes Cannizzaro up the middle. It's got to be a precision pass if you want to get around Wesley. Wesley doing great to guard that middle line.
But those wondering why are the 3 and the 213 battling as hard as they are here, it's because Bobby Trapper, the guy they're trying to reel in for the points lead and maybe eventually the championship, only got 2 bonus points from his heat race, finishing 4th. They could have a net gain here before we even get to the main event.
And right now, Cannizzaro trying to make the best of it on the low line, trying to get her around Wesley. Wesley just powers out of the turns. I don't think that the inside line is as effective as it was last week, and everyone's trying to figure out how they got to get around this 88. So far, the middle line is the way to go. The outside line's nowhere any more useful than the inside line. 4 laps to go. Here comes Boniface. He might try to send it to the inside 3 wide if he gets a shot at it. Look at Cannizzaro. Look at the crossover. Wesley to the inside. He's going to keep the lead. 3 wide almost, banging off of each other for the lead.
Think these guys don't want this heat victory. This isn't even the main event. This is just a pick your position for where you're going to start the 35 flapper. Cannizzaro going to edge ahead there on Wesley. Wesley takes the top side. Boniface to the middle. He'll look to the inside of the 80. Cannizzaro, I think it's clear he is. Wesley hard to the guardrail. Saves it as they head into turn 3, but a big hit for the 88. Now it's 2nd and 3rd in points to duke it out for this heat victory to the start-finish line.
Cannizzaro into turn 3. He's going to hold the lead, and he's going to hold this maximum points finish. Cannizzaro will win Heat 2. He gets the maximum amount of bonus points, and that will be a net gain for the 3 team.
My goodness, you'd think that was the main event victory right there that they were battling for. And that might be huge. We may be looking back on this heat race when we get to Charlotte in a couple of weeks, just based off the fact that there are going to be some points gained by both Cannizzaro and James Boniface, finishing 1st and 2nd to Trapper's 4th place run in his heat race. And that now sets us up for tonight's main event. I said that it was 35 laps in total. Correction on that. Looks like it's going to actually be 40 laps here tonight for these drivers at Knoxville.
And will be an extra 5 laps for these drivers to navigate. These are quick laps around this racetrack, so the extra 5 laps might be paying out well for some drivers. Maybe some of them wanted the race to end on lap 35 if they have a good lead and maybe a caution comes out to spoil the fun. But it looks like all 10 drivers that took our heat races will be taking part in the main event, and they will line up as such. Brian Rupel will be on the pole, followed by Zane Burke will be to his outside, Grant Wesley, Bobby Trapper. Now, even though that he didn't finish very well in his heat race, because of the way that the heats work, basically whoever qualifies or finishes ahead of each other will be further back on the field. The field is essentially inverted, so Bobby Trapper will be starting up towards the front. This is good news for him because it'll be good track position for the start, but bad news as he only got 2 bonus points. It's kind of the disadvantage of starting up at the front in the main event. Then it's Bobby Puckett, Louis Bernier, James Boniface trying to run down Cannizzaro for 2nd place. Nick Cooper will be in 8th place. 9th will be John Cannizzaro, and Jason Freeman will be in 10th. Those are our 2 heat winners as we set them up for our 40-lap main event.
Side of the good starting track position, you want to know something else that's in the favor of Bobby Trapper? In the last 2 seasons, they've come to this racetrack a total of 3 times. Trapper has won them all. 2 victories in season 1, the victory last season in season 2. Trying to go a perfect 4 for 4 here in the Master Millwright Big Block Series. Green flags in the air. The main event is underway at Knoxville.
Well, they were awfully squirrely on the start of the race. There was a lot of going back and forth, especially with the 74 and the 3 off the line. Didn't quite get it straight, but now they're going straight. Look at the 3 wide between Cannizzaro. It was 3 wide for a moment between Cannizzaro, Bernier, and Trapper. You don't think Cannizzaro wants this points lead? He's already caught up to 6th place. He's now trying to challenge for 5th place, and there's the points leader, only 2 cars in front of him. Here comes Boniface into the mix.
One thing I'm going to be very interested to see, we really didn't see it in the heat races, but I guarantee you, especially with the extra 5 laps here for the main event, when do drivers start going up to that steel guardrail? Because the later this race goes on, I guarantee you that top side is going to be the fastest way around the racetrack, and everybody's going to be trying to run up there. Saw nobody go to the extreme outside line in the heat event, so how much experience have they got with running that line as Puckett into the back of Bobby Trapper? That stacks him up for third. Loic Bernier going to enter into this mix.
Yeah, Trapper got bogged down on the exit, tries to get the speed. Look at Loic Bernier through the middle, trying to get it, but he can't quite do it. He's made contact with Puckett, tries to get around. Look at Trapper to the inside, 3 wide for the lead. It's not really the fastest line, but you know he might be able to make it work, at least for second place, as he ties it down into turn 1. He's got Grant Wesley to his outside. Brian Rubel holding it tough on the outside line, and Rubel will get away with the lead. Wesley still in second. Trapper will have to settle. Look at the way that Trapper sends it into the turns. He knows that he can't carry the speed out, but he's going to try and make up as much ground as he can on corner entry.
There's a short way around the racetrack. I guarantee you Bobby Trapper will try and find it. A la Stuart Freeze and Brian Rubel, high, wide, and handsome on the top. Grant Wesley, I'm sure, would love to run that. We know he loves the outside line, but he's trying to hold Trapper. Oh, Trapper messed up that corner. Saw the back end nearly come around on him as he was saving it. Got Bobby Puckett into the back of him. Got him out of shape again. 2 big saves there by the 69 as he'll continue to battle for third. Now loses the spot to Bernier.
Yeah, Bernier goes around. Now Trapper is under fire from James Boniface, and this is championship implications because even though that Boniface comes in a whole 40 points behind, he might not be able to make that big of a dent. But again, Trapper only got 2 points, so the gap will be a smaller deficit no matter what happens because of that fact, because of Trapper finishing poorly in his heat, and then Boniface and Cannizzaro both respectively finishing first and second in theirs. So no matter what, it's going to be cut into. It's just that the level of which it gets into, and something that Boniface needs to keep in mind is that John Cannizzaro, he's not doing too well right now. He's running back here in 8th place, hasn't really been able to find where his car can hook up. We're already almost 10 laps in. He needs to start getting up to the front before he runs out of time, because the way that these guys are racing up here, they're racing hard, but they're racing clean. So, you know, barring on cautions coming out, I don't think that he's going to be able to slice his way through the field as easily. Passing is a premium here.
Leader Loic Bernier gets around Brian Rubel. He'll go to the point. Now Trapper tries to get the second spot from the 44. Behind them, James Boniface, Grant Wesley. They're in a tussle for the 4th position. And how about Nick Cooper making his first start of the season? Finished second in his heat race. He's in 6th. Get out the popcorn because he's got himself a bird's eye view of this 4-way battle inside the podium.
Brian Rubel trying to hold it tough on the outside, but is being challenged every direction he can see. I don't know if he's got a rear view mirror, but he definitely does not want to look in it right now. 3 of them leaning on each other behind him. Trapper and Boniface decided to touch a little bit on the way into turn 3. Around the outside, extreme outside line is Grant Wesley. That's no surprise to see the 88 punt hanging out towards that outside retaining wall. And, you know, if the outside line starts to come in, and I've noticed that the 88's starting to dive in the corners a lot more than he has all night long. That's kind of Wesley's style. He likes to throw it in and then punch it on the way out. We'll have to see if he can get it to work here. Although, if you go too high, you'll have what just happened and go up and hit the outside guardrail. But still, fantastic drive by Wesley. He's falling back, but he's trying to get back up. Another driver that's making some headway around the outside of Brian Rubel is James Boniface, trying to get around. Now Rubel is having a pretty dismal couple of laps. He's gone from the lead all the way now back into the 4th place position. Now he's under fire from not just Grant Wesley, but Nick Cooper.
Things are getting really wadded up from about Boniface on back. Rubel, Grant Wesley, Nick Cooper, all within close proximity. Cannizzaro, Jason Freeman in this mix as well. I've been watching that 35. He's trying to take the lower way around the racetrack here, and I keep seeing those left wheels start to come off the ground. That's because Knoxville has a bit of counter banking down there. The apron of this track, as it's going to be Cooper into the side of Grant Wesley. Nice job by Freeman to allow Wesley to gather the 88 back up. But that was the banking there, that counter banking on the apron, affecting the 35, sending him up the track and into Wesley's door.
And that is a bit
look
of
at Bobby Puckett. My goodness, Travis Pastrana would have been proud of that wheel hop.
And that's what you have to watch out for. This track is not flat, especially down by the inside retaining wall, and that's something that we saw Puckett doing in his heat race. He was trying to hug it around the inside line, and he also cut a little bit too close in his heat race and ended up having something similar happen. Now he's fallen a long ways back now, trying to catch up. Speaking of someone who's kind of running by himself, Zane Burke has lost touch with the field. I know that the draft doesn't necessarily matter at this race, but still, back in 10th place, he's almost a half a lap down from everybody, so he'll have to have a caution come out if he wants to get back in line with everybody. But Loic Bernier continues to lead this race. Bobby Trapper very comfortably in second place now. James Boniface smells blood. He wants to get this deficit cut down. There's 3 races left, including this one, 2 races after this. So if he can get these runs consistently enough, and if Trapper has poor finishes in his heat races, this could be everything that Boniface and Cannizzaro need. Speaking of Cannizzaro, 7th place is where we find him, going nowhere in the direction he needs to be going in.
Interesting you use the word comfortable to describe Bobby Trapper. Obviously, as mentioned, would love to go 4 for 4 at this racetrack in this series, but is the focus out the windshield to try and win this race, take the lead away from Bernier, or is it more out the rearview mirror if he's got one to try and keep James Boniface back there, not allow him to gain more points?
Right now, I think you're in damage control. Try to get away from what happened in your heat race. Just try to ride it out. You don't have to win the race to keep the points lead in tonight's race. He had a big enough points lead that it's not going to matter too much. Loic Bernier is kind of a wild card into this championship hunt. If he wasn't in this race, then right now Bobby Trapper would probably be leading the race. But Bernier is thrown in this monkey wrench. He shows an incredible amount of speed. He might just go ahead and take these last 3 races if he comes back every race in the rest of the season. So right now,
No. Oh, there they go. Wow, it was Slide Job City back in the 5th to 8th position. It just went wrong. Brian Rubel pushes up into Cannizzaro and Jason Freeman. The 3 up and over. There's our first caution of the main event.
And there might be our first retiree of the event, John Cannizzaro. That car was all kinds of messed up as he came back onto his wheels. He has gone to the pit lane. I don't think he'll be able to get back out in enough time in order to get back in this race, but that is horrible for his championship efforts.
Just watching the moves these guys are putting on each other was putting a smile on my face. Unfortunately, it comes to a horrible end for a guy who picked up a heat victory here tonight in Freeman, a driver who, with his heat race, had started to eat into Bobby Trapper's points lead, and both of them sustaining some pretty extensive damage. Now, both of them do have a faster pair available to them, but in the case of John Cannizzaro, you've also got to account for the amount of time he would spend on pit road. And to your point, he is out of the race. I'm a little surprised by that. Why Cannizzaro would not wait out the time, take on the faster pair, because we've seen it here in the past that with the caution laps not counting, if you can get your car back out there before the green flag flies, you don't lose a lap under yellow.
The only reason why that would work is if you could get your car back out on track before the caution period was over. And obviously, I think what he was seeing is that even with having the faster pair, his tow time and it would just come down to his tow time was too long to have it stay out to get back onto the racetrack before the caution period is up, because we're about ready to go back to green now. So it was going to be cost a lap, and in this series, it was going to be almost impossible to get your lap back or even be competitive. So I think John Cannizzaro just decided to throw in the towel, but Bernier, Trapper, Boniface will be your top 3 as we go back to green. But it's a horrible day for John Cannizzaro. This will undoubtedly move him back into second place in this, or make that 3rd place in the standings. Right now, James Boniface wants to get as much as he can. This might be a battle between Trapper and Boniface going forward as the green flag comes back out, and Trapper doesn't want to have what's below him, and that's Boniface going through for second.
Boniface going to clear for the spot, but Trapper looks to cross him over. Everybody throw a blanket over him once again as Bernier tries to leave the scene. Trapper back to second. Boniface now in 3rd, and here comes Nick Cooper, high, wide, and handsome. 2nd place in his heat race, only to Bernier. We know he's pretty fast, and he's going to go right up against the wall. Diamonds it to the inside. 3 wide for second. Oh, he got a little loose there off the corner.
And to the inside goes Boniface on Trapper, tries to pull alongside, can't quite get alongside, so we have to settle for behind on the way out. Now tries to set it up the inside again. This inside line is just not getting the runs off the turns that he would hope to have, and that's kind of hampering the advantage of everybody trying to use the inside line, as the outside line has finally come into play, as up to the outside goes Nick Cooper and Grant Wesley. No surprise to see Wesley out there. Cooper trying to test the waters out front. How about Nick Cooper? He started towards the back of the pack, now tries to find himself up in the top 5. He is in the top 5, now trying to get a podium spot. He might be trying to play spoil for these championship too.
He's going to cross to the inside of Boniface for 3rd place. Wesley's going to go up to the guardrail. He'll try and get a run back on Cooper, who can't complete the pass off of turn number 4. He'll go back to the top. Will Cooper looks to get back to the outside of Boniface, as Trapper keeping Bernier honest, at least for the time being, between 0.3 to half a second every time we come around to the start-finish line, but his plate's still full with a 2:13.
2:13 of Boniface, still trying to find the part of the racetrack. We'll get him the advantage. There's contact between Trapper and Bernier. Bernier will get away. Trapper will snuck him the outside. He's in the wall now. 2 drivers in the wall. That was Boniface who made that Trapper, and I believe Nick Cooper went into the wall as well. Trapper loses 2 positions. Boniface gains the spot. Wesley will come through into second and make that 3rd place. Is now rim riding around the outside.
Keep an eye on Wesley. That contact there around the 3rd position really worked out in his favor. He and Nick Cooper have been the 2 that have really been hooking that top side. Nobody else has really ventured up there to see what grip is available. Oh, Wesley almost made a mistake there, as his tires exposed to that steel guardrail going into the corner, almost flipped him up into the air. He keeps it pointing in the right direction as he sets his sights on James Boniface for 2nd. Behind him, Cooper, Trapper, here's Brian Rubel as well. These guys are wadded up from 3rd on back. Nobody giving an inch. Everybody wanting that position ahead of them.
Tell you what, this is making me nervous seeing these drivers so far up the racetrack. We've seen it a number of races this season, whereas the cars start to creep higher and higher up on the racetrack, they start getting braver and braver with the outside wall and how quickly they can send it in. Look at Cooper trying to cross over, but it's going to be Wesley getting the position back. But we've seen how bravery can end up in tragedy, as a few races have ended up with cars flipping over trying to make moves on drivers ahead of them.
Talk about James Boniface right now in the 2nd spot. Bobby Trapper in 5th. Boniface did get more points in his heat race than Trapper did as well, but 40 points to the deficit. Coming into this one was James Boniface. How much would he cut into the points lead tonight if the finishing results remain the way they are? Trapper with some connection problems there as he tries to get the 4th position away from Wesley. Wesley not going to go away that quietly. Trapper sends it. Wesley looks to cross him over here. He won't be able to get to the bumper. Trapper completes the pass, move him up to 4th as we have closed in on less than 5 to go.
Oh, Wesley was trying the inside line. He thought about having a peek to it, but he couldn't quite get inside. So now we'll try to set his sights back on the 69 out front. Bernier's gotten to a healthy lead over Boniface, who's gotten a healthy lead over Cooper. Cooper's now being hunted down by Trapper and Wesley. Can Cooper hold on to this 3rd place position? We'll have to find out, as again, Trapper sends it in deep but cannot get the power out of the turns. Wesley's trying to challenge. And how about Loic Bernier? Came into this race, the first time he's competed in this series, in the main event. He didn't compete in the main event last week. Now he's gotten out to a huge lead. He's definitely played spoiler in this championship hunt. This might have been a little bit too late, but you gotta think, what if he was in for the rest of the season? We might be looking at our champion right now.
It's incredible how this season has been kind of the tale of 2 halves. First half, it was all Bobby Trapper and James Boniface going to victory lane. We are about to set a precedent with 3 different first-time winners in the last 3 weeks. Wesley 2 weeks ago, Canonzaro last week, and Loic Bernier is about to see the white flag and be 4 corners away from the first win of his TNR career.
Loic Bernier going through turn 3, make that final turn into turn 1, white flag. If you had told me last week that this would have been the driver to upset everybody, I might have believed you based on his times, but now I firmly believe it, because out of turn 4, his first start in a main event, he will win by over 1.5 seconds over James Boniface. Will take the win here at Knoxville, and did it in commanding fashion.
How about Loic Bernier here this evening? He won his heat race, had to start back in the pack in 6th position, worked his way to the front, and pretty much dominated the second half of this race. He gets his first checkered flag on the season. I'll tell you what, if this is a guy that's going to be coming back in the 4th season of the Master Millwright Big Block Series, look out everybody else that has a hope of winning the championship, because with what we've seen just in the last week and a half, this car and this driver has speed. Boniface finishing in second, 2 positions ahead of Bobby Trapper, so he may not cut in nearly as much as he would have liked to here tonight, but he definitely has put a little bit of a dent into the points lead Trapper had with 2 weeks left and the championship hanging in the balance.
This championship is all but settled, yet we still have those 2 races to go. It is looking favorable for Bobby Trapper still, even though that he did not get as many points as he would like to have had, but he had a huge points lead coming into this race, so he had that 40-point buffer over Boniface at least. Canonzaro, the other championship hopeful, the second in the standings coming into this race, will unfortunately finish at 10th place tonight. That is not what he needed after his win last week, but we do continue a trend, Seth. You were talking about at the top of the program about the trend of first-time winners. Well, now, make that 3. Loic Bernier takes his win tonight.
Gotta wonder. We got Weed Sport coming up next week. Dirt track at Charlotte for the season finale. I'm looking at some other fast drivers here that are still looking for their first win of the series. Bobby Trapper, correction, I'm looking at his name here. Nick Cooper finishing in 3rd. He was fast here tonight. Brian Rubel showed some muscle here tonight. So I'm telling you what, I'm not going to throw out the possibility being, null and void of us going 4 for 4 when we get to Weed Sport next week with what we've seen not only here tonight, but in the last couple of weeks.
No, absolutely. We have still a plethora of drivers that might want to try and get their name into the winners bracket still to come, and of course one of those is still going to be Jason Freeman. You want to almost wonder what would have happened if he had not gotten involved in that crash. He showed a lot of speed in his heat race, but unfortunately Freeman will go out in an 8th place tonight after a heavily damaged 20 machine. Had to have him come down and use fast repair, and he never quite got going in the same direction again. But yeah, 2 races still to go. The championship is completely wide open still, although I think there is one driver that is favored over the others at this point, but that doesn't mean anything. We saw how poorly the luck can fly towards drivers with John Canonzaro in 10th. That not to say that Bobby Trapper might have a dismal race in the next couple races, or he might go through and take the championship next week. We just never know. You have to stay tuned to find out, because I am so excited to see Weed Sport and Charlotte, 2 tracks that have a pretty good track record with these guys, and I can't wait to see them tear it around, because they tore it around tonight. Only 1 caution tonight as well. They kept it clean throughout the night as well.
They definitely did. I mean, there was some really close quarter racing during the course of the night, more than likely with the contact we saw constantly exchanged from about 3rd position on back. We should have probably seen a couple more cautions, but to your point, credit to these drivers. When someone would get out of shape, they'd back out, allow them to gather it back up. Hard racing, but clean racing here tonight at Knoxville. Looks like we're going to be able to talk with some of our top 3 finishers. A driver who finishes runner-up tonight, possibly keeping his hopes for the championship alive with 2 weeks remaining, is the multi-time winner, James Boniface. Let's talk with him now. James, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Oh man, what a gridiron battle here tonight, it seemed, for everybody in the field. You were in a bunch of those battles, double wide, 3 wide, about 4 different lanes being used by the time we got to the second half of this race. It all congests up off the corner, only about 2 lanes available on the straightaways. I mean, was it as crazy in the cockpit as it looked up here in the booth?
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. It was a really fun race. I had to put something together after last week. My power actually went out, so I dropped out of last week's race. And it's just feels good to finish on the podium with these guys.
You had a fantastic showing tonight. Finished second in your heat. Got a lot of points towards that. And a second place in the main. So a lot of points towards that as well. Bobby Trapper's still the points leader, but you'll cut into his points lead. How are you feeling for the championship, given that John Canonzaro had an unfortunate early exit?
Yeah, that stinks for John to go out like that. But we're just going to keep trying and see how it goes. A couple races left.
Now, obviously, we haven't got the points in yet. We don't know what the points gap is, but there was a point where you ended up winning 4 races in a row. We're going to be going to Weed Sport next week. We've got those double points coming up at the dirt track at Charlotte. How important was it here tonight to get the momentum back in terms of reeling in Bobby Trapper for that points lead? Do you think that if he had bested you tonight, that might have been championship over?
Yeah, this was big. I was having a tough go there for the past couple weeks. Second to the 74 is like a win to me. I'm just glad we're up here.
Runner-up finish here tonight definitely keeps your championship hopes alive. Congratulations on that great run. Hopefully you can keep this up and make it a good battle down the home stretch by the time we get to Charlotte. But James, for now we're going to turn the mic over to you for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, I want to thank Master Millwright for the sponsor of the series, you guys for broadcasting, and Swan Speed Shop for always hooking me up with setups.
That's James Boniface. He's your runner-up here tonight at Knoxville. He will jump to second in the point standings heading into Weed Sport next week. Best of luck there, James, and congrats on the great run tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Well, we didn't have the pleasure of seeing the speed he could bring in the main event last week at USA. He had to wait another week, but man, did we see it here tonight at Knoxville. Let's talk with tonight's race winner, Loic Bernier. Loic, gets Anthony and Seth up here in there for M Booth. You got us?
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, we saw the speed you had last week. We thought, if there's someone that can kind of be the dark horse here to get this win away from the guys battling for the championship, it might be that 74. We didn't get to see in the main event there, but here tonight just kind of basically met all the expectations we had last week. As soon as you got out there in front, nobody was able to touch you. What did it feel like with this race car out there tonight at Knoxville?
The race car feel good. Last week we got bad luck. The PC crash cannot enter in the session anymore, so we just gave up. Come here this week and have a good race. That was a fun one. Yep.
You definitely had a fantastic run tonight, even though that last week we never got to see your speed, but tonight, a blazing car. What was the thing that tonight that you set apart from last week? Because we saw that these two tracks are completely different from each other. One is very short. The other one has got quite a bit more run down the straights, but it didn't seem like you struggled to get around cars tonight. What was the secret to passing here?
You're in Knoxville. This is literally just the slider line or the outside, literally. So just stay outside, wait for a mistake, and get to lead and never look back.
Obviously, we saw you win your heat race that put you back in traffic for this one. So how difficult is it when you're at a track like this? You do have 3-4 lanes available to you in the corner, but don't really see drivers migrate up towards the top side until the midway portion of the race. So with everybody kind of congested down those 2 lower lanes, how difficult is it as a driver when you know you've got a fast car to remain patient and pick your moments to work your way to the front of the field?
You need to wait for the good moment to pass. Like, a lot of people on the track at the same time, and you just don't want to wreck anybody. So you just wait and get the speed, wait, got the lead, and it's done.
Well, Louis, congratulations on your first win of your career here in the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series. A big win for you here tonight, a dominating win as soon as you got that car up to the front of the field, a heat victory and a main event victory here at Knoxville. Now we're going to turn the microphone over to you for some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shoutouts.
I want to say thanks to my Bueno for the paint, House of Speed, Dushan Speed, Corona for the beer, and see you next week, boys.
Absolutely. That's Loic Bernier. He's your winner here tonight at Knoxville, and he'll look to continue to ride this momentum into Weed Sport next week. Congratulations once again.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate it.
That's going to conclude our coverage here tonight. And I'll tell you what, whenever we come to Knoxville, it doesn't matter what series it is, this dirt track always delivers. And the action we had here this evening from the front all the way to the back of the pack, not only in the main event, but man, that finish in the second heat race was something as well. These guys tearing it up here tonight. I think this just kind of points out as well, these drivers are realizing the sense of urgency down the home stretch. Not only is there a battle for the championship, but there's also drivers that are battling each other for third in points, for fifth in points, for spots inside of the top 10. Every position matters because it's points for improving your position by the time we get to the end of the season. And after tonight, there's only 2 races left.
Oh yeah, there is only so few chances left to get a win here in this series, and there's always so few chances for those in the points to actually make a difference in the overall standings of this event or this championship. And so, yeah, these races going down to the wire, it's going to come down to overall speed. You have to be able to be consistent. The wild card drivers that have come in so late in the season, like just tonight, Loic Bernier, first start in the main event, takes the win. That throws a wrench into the championship hopefuls. Not too much, but it throws another driver in the mix that you have to compete against, and potentially dampen or even elevate your championship hopes. That's a wild card. And then you have the double points event. You have the heat races that can sometimes play them into more of the championship than the overall main event races can. So it's certainly going to be fun to watch how these drivers navigate the last 2 races of the season.
And, it's very interesting you bring up kind of the impact that this victory by Loic Bernier brings into the championship picture, especially as well if we end up seeing him be able to double down or triple down in the next 2 weeks. Because if you look at just the race points alone, not counting in the bonus points, the race winner gets 50 points, second place gets 50 or 45, and then it's 2-point increments on down. So that is 5 points right there that both Bobby Trapper and James Boniface kind of missed out on, and instead they're having to rely on the 2 points per position from second place on down. So, especially with the fact that we've ended up now having 3 first-time winners in the last 3 weeks, it's maybe putting a little bit more pressure on guys like Boniface and Trapper, who at this point in time I'm certain would love to leave these tracks with good finishes and just finish ahead of their respective opponent. Those 5 bonus points for winning the race, they could be a huge difference maker into either being in championship contention or icing this championship for either driver.
Absolutely. There's still so many variables that come into it. And it's fun. We could throw out numbers, we could throw out statistics all day long, and we could throw out, possibilities, and we can throw out all this. What really it comes down to is, can Bobby Trapper, what he has to do is that he has to go out, finish at least halfway through his, at least in the top 3 in his heat race, and at least top 3 in these main event races, and he has the championship locked up. I don't think that there's any sense that we can say that, and all fairness and all credit due to them, I don't know if there's, number one, not enough time, and I don't know if there's not enough points available for either John Cannizzaro or James Boniface to even get to this points lead. I think Trapper has this locked up, but it comes down to, you have to be consistent these last 2 races. You only get 2 shots at it, and then we have an off season, and then we go for another chance. But I'm excited to see what happens, especially with Bobby Trapper. He's kind of in cruise mode, but we saw tonight John Cannizzaro had an issue, finished outside the top 9, didn't even finish the race. So anything can happen. I don't know. 2 DNFs in a row seems a bit unreasonable, but if that's what happens, then I'll have to sell my house, I guess. I don't know. That's not going to happen in a million years, I don't think.
And to just bridge off what you're talking about, the task that Cannizzaro and Boniface have heading into these final 2 races as well, consider the fact they're kind of going into home court turf. Bobby Trapper, because Weedsport, where we're going to next week, he's 2 for 3 in victories at that racetrack in the past 2 seasons. And we go to the season finale at Charlotte, he's the defending winner of that racetrack. So he's got checkered flags at both of those tracks where Boniface and John Cannonzaro are going to try and topple him for the points lead and eventually try and get the championship away from him in 2 weeks' time. But the next chapter gets written next week in the penultimate race on the season. We head to Weed Sport for the 4th time here in the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series. It's going to set up the final stage at the dirt track of Charlotte. Hope you guys will join us next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for that one. If you haven't had your fill of iRacing events here tonight, we've got the season finale for the TNR DRP Stadium Super Trucks going to be coming up here at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Josh Edmondson's got the championship pretty much all but locked, but it's going to be a good one because we're heading to the Speedway configuration of Homestead, Miami. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch these guys try and wheel and deal around the somewhat low banking corners of Homestead, Miami to see who's going to pick up the final checkered flag of the season. Anthony, can't wait for that momentarily, but appreciate you joining the booth here tonight for a great race at Knoxville.
Absolutely. Still 2 races left in this series, so championship is coming up. Mark your calendars. It's going to be so fun to watch the 3 championship protagonists duke it out.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate it. Hope you join us in about 40 minutes for the Stadium Super Trucks doubleheader here tonight in the TNR banner. For Anthony McCurry, I'm Seth Cole. Loic Bernier gets his first win of the season, the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series at Knoxville, as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.